All right, so we're diving into the story of John Hancock. And yeah, I know, that signature is legendary. But what about the man himself? We've got excerpts from, hold on, La Historia de la Familia Hancock. Let's see what kind of story we can uncover about the guy behind that bold handwriting.
You hit it right on the head with story. It's almost like a classic American tale. You've got this kid loses his father young, becomes an orphan, then boom, rises to be one of the wealthiest figures in the colonies. But, it makes you think about destiny versus choice. How much of who he became was just, well, luck of the draw, and how much was his own doing.
Okay, so our source mentions that his father, a minister, by the way, passed away when he was only 7.
Yeah.
7 years old. That's got to be rough. And then he gets adopted by his uncle. Sounds like a major turning point. What was up with his uncle?
Thomas Hancock. Now, he was a big deal, like a seriously successful merchant, super involved in imports and exports, the whole 9 yards. And basically, he brought young John up in the family business, mentored him, groomed him for success. By the time he was 27, John inherited the entire thing. Talk about a head start.
Wow. Yeah, you'd think inheriting that kind of fortune, you'd play it safe, right?
Yeah.
But then he jumps headfirst into the American Revolution. Doesn't really scream cautious businessman.
That's where you got to look at the bigger picture. Remember, the colonies were furious about those British taxes, especially the Stamp Act. It was a direct hit on merchants like Hancock.
Right, right.
We're not just talking about some abstract policies here. These were real-life consequences impacting his livelihood, his friends, his entire world.
So it wasn't just theoretical patriotism. This was personal.
100%. He was living it, breathing it. And it fueled everything he did. He didn't just sign a document. I mean, he was putting his money where his mouth was. He used his wealth, his own ships, everything to support the revolution. Supplied troops, smuggled goods to bypass those British regulations. That signature, it was just one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
You're right. You're right. One signature, as iconic as it is, can't possibly tell the whole story. And speaking of stories, our source mentions a bit about his personal life. A son who died young, and then he adopted a daughter.
Yeah, that's the thing about history. It's not just dates and battles, it's people. Losing a child, that's a pain that transcends time. And the fact that he adopted a daughter, especially back then, tells you a lot about him. Makes you think about the weight of legacy, the good and the bad.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine that. Your name on skyscrapers, synonymous with signing your name. Centuries later, people like us, we're still digging into your story. Do you think he ever imagined any of this?
It's funny, isn't it, how our actions echo through time? But Hancock, he could have just lived comfortably, right? He had the wealth, but he chose to fight, to risk it all for something he believed in. I think that's the lesson here. How do we want to shape history? What will our legacy be?
Definitely something to think about.
Something to think about.